great to see everybody here. It's nice to be able to get to see old friends and colleagues again.
And our residents as well. You know, what we have.
30 stories worth of fire hose seems like a lot, doesn't it?
Anybody wants to talk to Tom or I about what that looks like?
Looking at penetrations, looking at the fire stopping elements we're putting in buildings.
That's another sort of energy sustainable technology that sort of is great but works against us. It also burns the grass in my yard.
Okay, great to see you all. I'm Steve Rudge, and I'm going to try and look at tackling the Building Safety Act and Fire IE, maybe a new word to you, on the live project. So I started 23 years ago as a design and build manager with AMEC, NNC and Morgan Sindall. My first BIM project was in 1987, so BIM isn't new, it's just been rebranded. That was on Heysham and Tarness Power Station. And as we were just saying, I'm BIM manager on many, many projects with a team around me that helps deliver these new projects with a digital aspect. So what do we do? Many of you may not have heard of Symetri in the audience. So we do lots of things, but the main thing is we cover the full project life cycle of a building. We work with the end clients, and that's where every job should start, knowing what they want. They've got to manage these facilities for the next 15, 25 years maybe. They're going to tell us exactly what they need in that building and how we capture things digitally. We work with designers, architects, structural engineers, building services people to capture and model and capture the data and the digital aspects of those buildings. We work with many contractors. We're out on site, hard hats and boots, so we're not just a technologies company. And we work with the manufacturers, because they're the ones that are providing the information and the detail to put the maintenance regime around these assets that we're putting in building. So yes, we provide software, but we also provide training, support and consultancy. And we're moving more and more into digital consultancy services as the needs growing in the industry. We've got IT solutions, document management, and project delivery. So we cover all sorts, really. And we're not just in the UK. As you can see here, we have 800 employees around 7 countries. The big one I want to focus on, 400 consultants across those regions. That's grown considerably over the last few years to help people like yourselves get to standard, get to what we need to deliver to meet standards such as the Building Safety Act. Now, when we start talking about the Building Safety Act and a look at Colin's presentation from HSE, the first presentation, he started talking about collaboration. He started about working better together, bringing data together. We have to prove evidence. We have to work better digitally to capture that data and prove it to the regulators. These are some of the words that you'll find in the new Building Safety Act. These are some of the words that you'll see in the relevant standard, which is BS 8644 Part 1, which is linked to the Building Safety Act and how we should be delivering this data. There's things in there, BIM. I'm hoping most of you now know what BIM is. That's probably dying, because as soon as we mention BIM, everybody thinks of cost, and it's going to add cost to a project. So that's one thing. Golden thread. Who's heard of golden thread? Yeah? Most of us? Yeah? Brilliant. So golden thread is a core delivery of information throughout the Building Safety Act. 8644 is a great guidance document on how we deliver this fire information and bring it to the regulators and put it as part of our standard delivery when we're looking at these tall buildings and high-risk buildings. Fire IE, I'll come on to that in a moment. That's about your fire stopping information requirements and how we bring that together. IEPs, information exchange points, anybody? No? Excellent. So I'll tell you a little bit about them. And then this thing, ISO 19650. Again, anyone heard of that standard? No. So that is how we have to deliver projects digitally to a standard. Okay? That is a worldwide standard, an international standard That's how we have to deliver drawings, documents, specifications, buildings, models, is to ISO 19650. That's how we need to work together. That's been around now for 4 or 5 years, so that's a lot of your architects will be delivering to 19650. UK BIM framework, again, another key aspect that we need to start following as guidance. And we've already mentioned, Colin mentioned gateways. It's bringing all this together. And I've already mentioned this word, BIM, Building Information Models. That's a picture from 2011 that I used to use. And we're having similar conversations today about BIM and information management that I had 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago. And it's about how we manage the information we provide on a project. But as I said, BIM is pretty died a death now because we've realised that it's about information management. BIM got this sort of presentation mode of it's a building, it's a model, it's something I can spin around and make look pretty. It's not. BIM was a process, and it was about the information you captured against that building. A lot of the time, we start now, and this is how we should start, is start at the end. In 2011, we started here in planning and got the designers to get a nice, pretty model, and then we still built off drawings anyway, so what was the use of it? You know, that's how we are now, but we're seeing a move now. Contractors are engaging in this model. They're getting the quantities out of this model. The information's embedded. The owner-occupiers are using it to embed it in their FM systems to maintain those assets. There is no different in what we're trying to do here with fire safety elements. Okay, not just maintainable assets now. We've got to move this cycle into fire stopping and capture it and work together. And that's what this golden thread is. So the golden thread, there is a report, I think it's been withdrawn now, but it's still a key document to reference. They're the 10 elements, really, of what the golden thread is. Really, really key to think and consider how you capture your data, how you store your data, and as Colin was saying, how you work collaboratively. The Building Safety Act is there so we work together and not in isolation and silos. We've got to get this information between us, build it up, so we actually, at the end of the job, have a full record of the safety of that building, and it's there to protect us all and the residents, etc., in the buildings going forward. You can see some of the key things on there. You know, it's got to be accurate and trusted. So if it's accurate, that means it's got to be as-built. Ooh, that's a nasty word to talk to many people. How do we get as-built data? Yeah, in the past, it's always been a bit fluffy, and yeah, it's sort of as-built. But when you look at it, you've got pipes there, and on the drawings are over here, and we have all the usual fun of that. So we've got to look at accurate data. We've got to ensure that the residents feel secure in their homes. They have a right to ask for some of this data and see how the apartments or wherever they're living in were actually built and some of the materials and specs that we used. It is going to be a huge culture change. I've mentioned BIM already several times. BIM's a bit fluffy. You can get away with BIM. Yeah, you can get a nice model and, yeah, okay, you hand it over and it sort of disappears. We can't do that on this. We've got to get that digital information stored and the workflow correct into meeting the regulators, getting it through the gateways, and ensuring we've got it proven and the specifications in the design are met during construction. This thing, a single source of truth. How many of you still email documentation around or use Dropbox or tools that are just passing data between each other? As soon as you do that, people download, and you've got a single source of truth. At Symetri, you've got one at the HSE, you've got one at the contractor, you've got one at the design teams. Everyone's got that same document now. Do they update it when it gets updated? Probably not. So that's why we need a single source of truth. So everyone knows they're working to the right document, right specification, right drawing, right model, the latest version. There should be only one of that anywhere on a project. It's got to be secure. Okay? It's got to be there so we can share it, but be secure. And it's got to be accountable as well. Yeah, you've got to have ownership of this information and make sure that you're accountable to the data you're pushing up there. It's got to be consistent and understandable. It's no use writing it in so much detail that nobody can understand and use it. So it's got to be able to be read by people of the relevant source that want to view that data. It's got to be simple to access. Don't make it too complex. And it's got to live and be shared across the life cycle of that building to the relevant people. Okay, now I'll show you what this lot means in a minute. So we've got 2 case studies that we'll start going on to. This is 8644. Yeah, it is worth a read because it tells you what needs to be in your fire safety information. You can start driving the teams that you're working with, your fire engineers, your architects, your structural engineers, about the data that needs to go in to the drawings, to the models and things like that to pull this together. There's part 1 out now, part 2 is due out this year, so that'll put more emphasis on how we actually deliver this information. But it's helping us to provide a safer built environment, okay? Because if we didn't follow things like this, we'd all generate our own information and the regulators would have a nightmare. So it's trying to put more governance and standard of what information's needed, how it's presented, and how we actually use the data going forward. So it's to look to, reduce the business operation and property loss from the fire. The regulation's there for a reason. Okay, I've mentioned this word already as well, Fire IE. Fire Information Exchange. Okay, that's what it stands for. Some of you may have heard on jobs and ran a mile called COBE, which is the Construction Operation Building Information Exchange. That's your maintainable asset. So that's COBE. Fire stopping. Anything to do with fire needs data. It is not COBE. So if you start getting into projects and said, oh, we need COBE and fire, that's what it means. COBE is your maintainable assets. Fire IE is your fire assets. But you start thinking about what we actually put into models. When we create a model, it's so we can see visually the coordination of all the different disciplines in one environment. We're not going to model things like cavity barriers, intermittent strips on doors, fire collars, foam fill penetrations. We just don't model it. It's part of a group of assets that are making assemble. So we put in a glazed unit in, it comes with the frame, the glazing, and it's there as part of the model. We don't go into that glazing, we don't go into the insulation in the wall. So we've got to start thinking, how do we actually do this? Because we're down at a material level, not a component level when we create these models. Now, just to really scare you, that's the information that we need to provide on a job. It looks absolutely scary. All the green bits, and I think you get a copy of this presentation so you can zoom in, but all the green bits is this thing called COBE. So if you're on a job and it gets asked, oh, you need COBE, COBE is your maintainable asset, as I keep saying. That's what we need to provide against maintainable assets. The red bits is what we need to provide against your fire stopping. How are we going to do that? That's the interesting bit. 8644. Download it, purchase it, go to Appendix A. Appendix A, a bit sad, but I think it's page 52. Go on to page 52 and click a little thing that said link, hit it, and it takes you to this. This is a huge document because if you look across the bottom, information exchange points. It starts to tell us what we need to deliver at each stage of those projects. So at the end of design, Gateway 2, what do we need to have to present to the regulators? Who's the responsible party, as Colin was saying? Who's the responsible party to provide that information? This is your document. This starts telling you what you need and who's responsible for that. So these principal accountable people, lead contractor, lead designer, needs to focus on this, and you can see the tabs at the bottom in the spreadsheet. End of design, end of construction, handover, in use, end of life, fire incident. Okay, so it's starting to tell us what information we need on these buildings and what we need and who's responsible at all these different points. Really key. If you start looking into 8644, it starts telling us how we need to work. So it starts saying we need to follow the principles of this ISO 19650. Might not be the people in this room, because I know a lot of you are involved in fire inspections and things like that. But it's how information should flow on a project. How it should get decision points and work together collaboratively. And naming conventions. Because how many times do we get on a job and one drawing is called one thing, you pull another drawing from another discipline, it's called something completely different, you don't know what's what. That's what we're trying to do, get consistency of how we deliver this information. Okay, but now the emphasis is on fire stopping as well. There is another document here, the UK BIM framework, and that's telling us, again, how to work on this information, how to work together. It's not mandated, so you don't have to follow it word by word, but it's a suggestion of what you should be following. If you follow this, you will hopefully work easier with the regulator because they can see the structure of your data. Okay? So, ISO 19650, UK BIM framework, will structure the data in such a way it will assist you to get you through this gateway 2 to prove that you've got the building designed correctly. Okay, I've pulled this together just to help people because I think we're all aware of the different REBA stages and where they sit. We've got these gateways now that sit in our project that we've got to pass and get the regulator certification to carry on. And we've also now got these information exchange points that I've just gone through on that spreadsheet. So hopefully this is beginning to draw a picture for us. Notice that we've got Inform Exchange Point G covering construction as well. Because on the last presentation, we were just saying that you need now fire alarms and extinguishers maintained during construction. So that's part of this. What needs to go and what information do we need on those assets and fire stopping elements during construction? So a little bit of a key document really, just to show you how this is really pulling together and where we need to follow and get those information exchange points in place. So we've now got the 3 gateways. Gateway 1's been in place since August 21. I'm hoping Colin nods at that point. Yeah, August 21. So we're already working on that. Our planning submissions are taken into account the surrounding buildings, access routes, the safety of the site, the safety of the building, etc. That's Gateway 1. So that's been in place for quite a while now, nearly 2 years. Gateway 2 and 3, as we were saying, and Colin was saying, 1st of October, we're going to see them starting to come into action. Okay? We're starting now to have to register our buildings, register our projects that we're working on. And Gateway 2 is key because it's to show we have a safe design. Okay, that's what the regulator's looking for, the specification, the design, the consideration you've put into that project, and that's what needs to be built. Okay? Now I'm going to ask Colin a question later, because this 6 weeks period, is it the whole design, or is it work packages of design? So if you submit your underground services and piling and foundations, is that 6 weeks and then move on? That's something that we just need to chat, and I'll put it on Colin's list to answer so he's got a bit of time to think about it anyway. Or is it the whole project that needs the 6 weeks? Okay? But it's key. Okay? Now that puts a 6 weeks period where we can't get onto site. Okay? That changes the way we work. Because traditionally, as you say, we try and get on site as quick as we can. We try and get the design hand in hand with construction, and we work into it. Gateway 3, pre-occupancy. Have we built that building the way it was designed and specified? Have we got in there the right materials that were specified to the right specification? How are you going to prove that? How are you going to show that you've got all the elements that were in your fire stopping specs and drawings and models, that you've actually put it in on your site? There was a case and a legal battle that was going on in Cheshire, where I come from, around a care home. And a fire spread throughout the care home. And the fire inspector was trying to pull the contractor through a legal battle because it was proven that they hadn't put in fire barriers in the cavities. And the contractor says, yeah, I did. I use these. And he says, well, we've inspected the building and you've not got them in these areas. And he says, I did it. But the contractor couldn't prove he'd done it. And that was really key, because he thought that his subbies that was working for him had actually completed all this, but actually they hadn't. So he's sat in prison now. You know, and it's as key as that. We have to prove the evidence of when we're building it, but also protect us all. We have to show the evidence and capture that evidence going forward.
Book your tickets now for the 8th International Tall Building High-Rise Fire Safety Conference, taking place alongside FDIC in Indianapolis, US, on the 15th to the 17th of April 2024. 3 days of world-class speaker presentations, debates and networking. Book your tickets via the website www.tallbuildingfiresafety.com. Early bird discount tickets will be available. The Tall and High-Rise Building Fire Safety Management course is ideal for anyone who has responsibility for fire safety management in tall and high-rise buildings. It is a 5-day intensive course with world-class instructors. You can get full details of the course on our website www.tallbuildingfiresafety.com.
So, yeah, Gateway 2, we have to submit the designs to the building safety regulators. That design is frozen for 6 weeks. We have to look at the key safety information that's embedded in there. And, you know, the process is similar for existing buildings as well. Okay, so it's not just about new build, this is existing buildings. We have to register our existing buildings that are over the 18 metres, 7 stories. And we need a construction control plan, because, as Colin was saying, we can't change. Once the regulators approved that design, we can't just go ahead and change it. You can't do a bit of valued engineering and say, well, I'll go and buy this insulation that's now £100 per square metre cheaper. I'll throw that in instead. You've changed the design, you've changed the specification. That's what we're stopping. Okay, so this Gateway 2 is ensuring we're building the way it was intended to be built and not cutting any corners. Okay, and then Gateway 3, big one, as-built design. We're talking to many architect practices at the moment, and they're having fun with their insurances, because no one is insured for as-built design. As constructed for construction, not as built. Completely different. So things like that are really impacting the industry, and rightly so, because it should be as built. You know, we need to build what's been designed and specified. And keeping things up to date all the way through. How are we managing that? You know, that as-built rush at the end to get to PC and get it all handed over and all get paid, great. But is it as built? Is it being kept up to date? Have we got change logs in place? Things like that. It's really key that we're capturing some of this. And residents need to engage. They have a right to ask for their information about their apartment, their dwelling, how it was built. Can you do that? Or have you got to say, well, there's my common data environment, all my document management, it's in there somewhere. There's my O&Ms. It's in that lot. You can't do it. We've got to have it structured so we can present reports to the people that are asking for it. Okay, golden thread, key data set, prove it right the way through design and construction. Then we get our completion certificate from the building safety regulators. Okay. So in summary, what I've done here is put 6 key bits. We've got to have this information stored and work collaboratively. We've got to manage and change and being able to show change during our projects. It's got to be a simple platform that we can all use and use out on site, not too complex. It's got to be in compliance. Capture that evidence to protect us all and be there for when we're asking for it. It's got to be as built, and it's got to be able to be shared and transferable, because as we know, we might be working for a developer who will sell it on What happens to that data? It can't just stay where it was. It's got to go with the building. Okay? So, moving on, 2 live projects that we're working on. One's in the north of London, and one is in the East London. Okay, so some of you may recognise the pictures. This one, PC's just happened, but we've got a 12-week additional period to deliver the fire safety data. Interesting. This one, just starting, but they've asked, the client has said, we want to put this right the way through the 2 gateways. Great. And it's this bit. 1st of October is so key. So if you've got no drainage or foundations in your building footprint by the 1st of October on a project you're working on now, you need to put it through Gateway 2. Okay? So that's just something, if you see pumpkins in shops, think about your projects. Okay? So that's why I've put that there. Right. So, thinking about that date, the client's just asked for this. We've already handed it over contractually, but he wants fire safety information. He wants Gateway 3 on it. So this is just Gateway 3, this job. That one, it's going to be post-October. Okay? We're on site now, but they want Gateway 2 and 3. So we're enabling to get there and get a full delivery. So let's look at these in detail. These are live jobs. Okay, this one. It was BIM, a full BIM project. It was ISO 9650 delivered. We had this thing called a common data environment where all the documents are stored. Okay? And it was using the Autodesk Construction Cloud. We added models. We've got full models. We've got all the specifications. We've got all the O&Ms, all digitally provided. We were using the Construction Cloud for construction management. So inspection test plans, sign-off applications and compliancy forms and sheets, all digitally recorded. We had bolster fire reports. Many of you will be aware of them. Great. It all sounds straightforward. Then we looked at these requirements. Right, we've got it all stored. It's in the Construction Cloud. Great. Change. We can show change. We've got all the version controls. We can show absolutely everything. Good. Is it simple? Is it structured? Possibly not. I've got a folder that says drawings, architect, and all dumped in there. Probably not fully structured. Is it compliant? Have I captured the evidence? Yeah, I'm happy with that. Is it as built? Ooh. Right, now there's a question. Probably not. Can I share this information? No. It's sat in my system as the main contractor. I was just going to pass over the O&Ms and drawings, and I can't pass over all this great data I've captured. So I've got a few things I've got to consider, because the CDE I'm using, which was Autodesk Docs, Autodesk Construction Cloud, was great. I've got all this data in it. But I've also got all my dirty washing in there. All my health and safety issues, all my snagging, all my problems on site, all my meeting minutes with the problems are sat in there. Ooh, do I now want to share this with my client? Not really. Yeah? So I've now got to think, how do we get this from there to here? Because, yeah, I've got it all. I thought I had it all. I've been working digitally. I've BIM. I've ISO 9650'd it. Great. Now. So we ended up putting a client's Autodesk Docs environment in place. And what we're allowed to use is a functionality in the system called Bridge, which meant we could pick certain aspects of the contractor's cloud and push it into the client's cloud, which meant none of the dirty washing went with it. Okay? So it's meeting the compliance, it's meeting the information, but now we've got a client's information side, which meant we could share and make it transferable, but allowing us to structure it different as well. Because here, as I said, architects, 300, 400, 500 drawings in there. How does apartment 23 get their drawing about their apartment? So what it allowed us to do, as we moved it over, we structured it in a way where if somebody asked for some information, we could pull out apartment 23. That's your relevant documentation, your relevant O&Ms. There's your fire stopping data relevant to that apartment. So it allowed us to restructure. But then we thought, how do I prove evidence that I've put the fire stopping in place, the fire barriers? They're in reports and bolster reports and all sorts. How do I prove that? So what we did, we manipulated the construction cloud into doing things like this. We put markers on a floor plan. Wall penetration, cavity barrier, sprinkler system, kitchen fire suppression. You can see we marked everything that was a fire stop on that existing building. And what it allowed us to do, if we can get back, was then link the relevant documentation that's already captured to that point. So if somebody came and said, prove what you've done with that wall penetration, it's there. Just click that orange blob, I've got all the data relevant to it. I can do a report on that now. Great. And this is it live. This is the live project that we've got going. You know, so we've got all the folder structure here. We can look at floor plans. We can see the model. We can get into things called the sheets. And within here, we can click. This is the floor plan. This is the fire engineering drawing. You can see all the red bits. There's all your fire stopping. On a mobile device now, while I'm out on site, I can click any of them. Click. I'll do click it in a minute, honest. Click. Go on. There you go. I'll click it now. Fire IE. There's my data that I need to collate. Linked to that is all the photographs about that wall penetration. Linked to it by clicking that orange blob is all the files, documents, everything that I need to collate. That's going to really start helping the regulators to see how we've structured this data and get all this completed and put together. Now that I've got this, and each one of those little orange pins is assigned to an apartment. Because now I can do a full report on that apartment with all the relevant data assigned to it. So my clients are happy, my residents are happy, my owner, the occupier, the developer's happy. They've got now structured data that's all relevant to it. We had to go out and try and prove as built, but we had to go out with iPads to look at the model through virtual reality and just to see what was installed and make sure. We started losing a little bit there. Which brings me really on to the new site. Because it's a new site, we had everything open to us. We had lots of options that we could actually do. We looked again at the 6 points, and we had now an open book, really. What do we do with it? Because we started to look in design. What do we actually need to capture? Which will link into what we need to capture in construction, and ultimately, what the client needs, what the contractor needs to retain to protect themselves, what the residents might need, but also what the fire brigade needs as well. That's all in the Act. So it's great now. I've got it all structured. Let's go and find a bit of tech. That probably summarises a bit of tech. If any of you are at these events this week and look around, you know, we're at these events every year, and we always look at the startup companies. There's hundreds of them. Little idea, they bring a bit of tech out. Wow. Now with that, what do we do here? But we kept to the same principles in the job that we've just gone through. But because we're at source, we can bring other tools in to really enhance the way we're delivering. Before we just had this, the construction cloud. Now we can use a tool called Revit. Many of you may hear of it. It's one of the leading design tools out there that architects and engineers and that use. But we've also got a thing called BIM Fire. That allows us to put elements in the model as well as the orange pins. So it allows us to put more data in that modelling environment to enhance the drawings, to enhance the data that we've got in there. So that'll help us to get into Gateway 2 with better information. We then went into construction, thought, how do we do this quick? Because if you've got to capture evidence over 200 fire stopping elements per floor, how do I capture that quickly? This is where we use Oculo, and I'll show you Oculo in a minute. And then we look at the end, because Oculo can go through, which is capturing your evidence. You can have a flow of data through the construction cloud, which is great. We've looked at a tool called One Engage. It's a company called One Creative we partner with. What they've got is a portal through to your residence. So if someone's broke the leg playing football and they live on the 12th floor, how does the fire brigade get to know that they can't get down the stairs easily if the lift's out of operation? How does your clients and developers inform the residents that there's some maintenance on the lift for 2 hours that day? So they're aware of it. So that's a portal for doing that. If all this needs to be transferred, we've put a big N there, and that's called Navigate. That will allow you to strip out all this data and push it on a memory stick, if need be, to another developer. So we're beginning to put a bit of tech around the job that we're doing and ultimately link it to something called Archibus, which is a maintenance system. Okay? So it's all starting to link and align to this, because now I've got a flow of data right the way through this project. And this is basically what we've got now. And because we're modelling in such a way, we can pull the models through, but we've got to manage change. Remember change control? So I can hit this button, top right, yeah. Straight away, I can see what's changed in that building. So every time that model's now passed to us, and it's maybe have gone through the regulators, I can see these 2 doors have been added. The regulator's not aware of that. This has changed. And it's not just geometry, it's the information behind here. So if a door's changed from 60 minutes to 30 minutes, it'll flag it up. And so we can start using this for change management, because if things change in that model that we need to inform the regulator with, we've got it now. We can change it. We can inform, look for recertification, etc. It's not just about models. As you know, we build off 2D drawings still. So we can pull a drawing in as well, hit the button, and see the changes. So does any of that change the specification? Would it impact the regulators, certification, etc.? So we're now beginning to get a platform that's managing change, bringing collaboration together, working together. This BIM Fire tool, like I say, sits on top of the design information. And what this is allowing us to create our fire plans quicker, but with more information. And it's quite a long video, so I'll stop because I've just had the 5-minute warning. But here, 60-minute firewalls, there they are. Okay? Look what's happening in the model. It's not just a line like we traditionally do. This is pouring modelling information into our models so we can use the data in other places. Okay, I know it's a bit techie for today. I'll copy it through the floors, but you can see the workflow and how this information is driving through. Change it to 30-minute fire doors. I can label which are the 30-minute fire doors, etc. This is all asset and fire stopping information that we need to collate and provide. And you can see here, as I place these fire extinguisher and call points, if you look in the model, you'll see them start appearing. There they are. We've got physical assets now that we can hang data off. Okay? But this works as well. So actually what we can do is a workflow. I know it's getting a bit technical, but there's a workflow there that of these things that we place, we can use them to link to these orange pins. So now when we're out on site, we've got the orange pin, but it's linking all the assets together. Now a key bit to the delivery is Oculo. Anybody heard of Oculo? Anybody seen it, used it? No? Okay. Oculo is a way of documenting and monitoring your site. This is one of the colleagues that works for us. Look on his head. Yeah? It's a 360 camera. It's not expensive, straight off Amazon. Walk the site. Once we walk the site, it tracks where we walk. It captures everything in a 360 imagery. We can walk site every day. So if we want to see the build-up of a wall, we can see it. We can put dates side by side so we can see how that wall was built. Was a cavity barrier put in? I can see it. What material was used for the installation? I've got it. So we've now capturing evidence, we're getting the build-up, we're getting the confidence that we're actually building to specification just by walking. Better still, I can get the model side by side, so I can start doing my as-builts early before things get covered up. I can prove it's as-built because I've got the model at the side. I can capture detailed photographs and it knows where I am when I take the photograph. This is it, so you can see where we've walked. This was over in Barking on a live job. You can click any of these yellow dots here and spin round. It's capturing a full 360 image. At any point, I can click the top right button. That will then switch on the model. Okay, so there we go. There's the model now. Spin this still, it's going to spin the model at the same time. So it's showing that we're following the design intent, we're proving that we've got as-built, and we're capturing the as-built. We're capturing the evidence of what we've actually done on site. We can see this backing up. We can use it in another way as well. So yeah, in the model, I might have an asset, a fire stopping asset. Click on it in the model. Where is it on site? It's there in the model. Oh, I've got it on site. Oh, I'm looking good here. I'm getting things installed in the right place. They're being installed on time, so I can start using it to monitor progress. So that means I can use this as well to look at progress reports and things. So show me where all it might be, all the fire collars, and it'll produce a report of where they are in the model, where they are on site, have we fitted them out correctly, where are we at? So we can link this then to progress reporting. So it's not just about evidence and compliance and as-built, we can link it so we can see what we're doing. Another live job, replacing of cladding on an external of a building. There we go, look at the dates at the top. We're going back through the materials, we can prove it. Photographs, and even the photographs we take are intelligent. We can link a photograph in here, like so. Click on the photograph that we took. Now we can go and measure it. And the measurement of that, as you can see, can be useful to your owner-occupier, developer, as well going forward. So we're doing lots of things, but it's all linked data. It's all linked together. And just to finish off, this is a new feature. This allows us to put the model on top of the photograph. It uses artificial intelligence to map it. So I'm looking at these two rainwater pipes at the top here. Are they in the right place? Are they in the model? Have we considered the fire stopping around them? Yeah, I'm happy because it's there. And this one's even better. This is live. You can see 4 services going through a firewall there. I've now got 3 live on site in a completely wrong place. Why? Where's this 4th one gone? So now I've got someone to have to go and drill that. That's proving that I'm not as built and the contractor's not following the design intent. So we're using this now all the time to monitor how we're using the build, looking at penetrations, looking at the fire stopping elements we're putting in buildings, because we've got to prove these. We've got to have the evidence. We've got to have that supporting information that needs to be provided. And we need to keep the residents engaged. And we need to retain it for 15 years, minimum, for legal requirements. So hopefully I've kept to time-ish, but I'm hoping it's give you a bit of an insight into the world of digital management and digital information around fire stopping. So any questions? Because I know it's probably like, whoa, what's he gone on about there for half an hour? Just give us a shout. Yeah, we can have a chat. There's lots to it. It's a real involved world, but it's the way that the government, the industry's got to go to capture this data and pull it together, really. So yeah, hopefully it's been informative and hopefully it's give you a bit of insights into our world and how we pull the data together on live projects, etc. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Book your tickets now for the 8th International Tall Building High-Rise Fire Safety Conference, taking place alongside FDIC in Indianapolis, US, on the 15th to the 17th of April 2024. 3 days of world-class speaker presentations, debates and networking. Book your tickets via the website www.tallbuildingfiresafety.com. Early bird discount tickets will be available. The Tall and High-Rise Building Fire Safety Management course is ideal for anyone who has responsibility for fire safety management in tall and high-rise buildings. It is a 5-day intensive course with world-class instructors. You can get full details of the course on our website www.tallbuildingfiresafety.com.